part of the new update Remnant, we have Expedition 21, also of the same name. I did this expedition in just under 3 hours. It was enjoyable, but also laborious and tedious in parts. So hopefully to save you some time and help you out in places, I've put together a little guide of tips and tricks and what not to do in this expedition. The first thing I want to highlight is to start the expedition from a normal save. So when you load up the game, you'll be shown at this screen, go into play, go into new game, and then click on the expedition here. My advice is not to use the terminal in the Anomaly, as you do not use your Starship in this expedition, which means you cannot summon in the Anomaly, go to the Anomaly and collect your items. You can only do that once you've completed the expedition. I do say this at the start of every expedition, but make sure you go into network, disable your multiplayer and put PvP with no one. This means that no one can use the coil against you, the Gravitino coil. There have been some reports on some Discord servers, I believe, that people have been antagonistic with that coil. There's also an issue with waste heaps, where if you play a multiplayer and one has already been collected, the items will no longer be there. So make sure you turn off multiplayer. There's also just general problems with multiplayer in No Man's Sky as part of this update, so also just be aware of that. Turn those off. One of the other tips I always say is to manage your inventory. Put your items into your selected supercharged slots and make sure that it is all where you want it to be, including your multi-tool. We're going to ignore our Starship completely for this. If you find it, don't go fixing it. You cannot fix all of it until the end of the expedition. You will discover the Gravitino coil as soon as you interact with the processing plant, which is right next to you. You will need magnetic resonators and Gravitino balls for this. We'll come on to that in a bit. One other thing I will say before we start onto the actual milestones is to manage your inventory. So don't go collecting every single reward that you may not need. There is one for a nutrient ingester and cakes. I would just ignore that one. And this is down to the amount of inventory you're going to have throughout the expedition, especially in your exosuit. Yes, you will have a lot in the Colossus, but I still found I had inventory problems whilst collecting all of my rewards. As in every expedition, make sure you collect those base materials. Carbon is one of them. You're going to need a bunch of carbon for this expedition. Oxygen is another. These grassy pods have a bunch of it, and if you kill all of the hazardous flora you see, you will get oxygen out of it as well. There is also a milestone called Weeds in the Tires, which is to eliminate 20 hazardous flora. So as you're collecting your oxygen, that will go towards that milestone. Also, whilst you're driving around in your Colossus, you can smash into things when you have the excavation blade fitted, which will give you oxygen as well, but also destroy those hazardous flora. Do be aware, you have to travel 50,000 U in your Colossus. So make sure you are traveling from each waste heap to the processing plant. You have to do that to transport the actual materials themselves. If you just run to the waste heap and then summon your exocraft, your Colossus, you won't get the travel distance for the mileage milestone. Sodium and dihydrogen are always good things to collect, although I found I didn't need to use these as much in this expedition, so maybe concentrate on the others a bit more that I'm going to go through in terms of materials that you need. You're going to need a bunch of ferrite dust, loads and loads of it, so make sure you collect a vast amount of it. The more the better. The more materials we collect at the beginning, the better the expedition is going to be as we go through. Make sure you collect pyrite. I found a deposit right next to the processing plant. Definitely grab this. The pyrite and ferrite dust will make paraffinium, which you will need to make the Colossus Geobay. Also going to need to collect emerald. This is the only way I believe you're going to be able to get chromatic metal. You can refine the emerald in your personal refiner to make chromatic metal. There are cobalt deposits on the planet, but there's also cobalt in caves, and there's a cave right next to my processing plant. So I'm going to grab the cobalt from here. One thing to note about the geobays for the exocraft, you can't physically pick them up like you would a other piece of deployable technology. But you can go into your build menu and you can edit this out and you can get rid of it, and then you get the materials back that you used to build it with, and that way you can build it anywhere on the world, simply because you're going to need to customize your Colossus throughout, or if you just want to carry it around with you. One of the milestones of Petrology is to discover 8 minerals. So I discovered 2 in a cave. That would be one's coming up from the ground and one's coming out of the ceiling. You also have the standard ferrite dust. And this tree is not actually a tree, it is a mineral, the big tree looking mineral thing. There's also the bigger rocks, which are pure ferrite. Then there's the smaller rocks in and around the ferrite dust rocks, so we can grab those as well. And as I was generally exploring in my Colossus, I found these like trackways. I started to use them as my main thoroughfares for my Colossus. And there are actually 2 of the minerals in the sort of gullies, ravines, or whatever you want to call them. These little ones here as well. And that should give you all 8 of the minerals if you are struggling to find them. There is also a milestone for collecting all of the animals called Field Guide. But be careful with this one, as there is also a milestone for scanning creatures from the exocraft. And this is 2 of the 6 creatures you need to find. So you must make sure that you scan them from the Cyclops scope. One thing to note about checkpoints, when you do them, you don't have to do them all in order, and you don't have to travel from one checkpoint to back to the processing plant to another checkpoint back to the processing plant. You can, once you've reached the first checkpoint, go into your Colossus radar and search for another waste heap, and it should pick it up, but you have to be on the next second checkpoint, I believe. So let's try that again. And rendezvous point 2 or checkpoint 2 is over there in that direction. So I could collect my materials here, load up the Colossus, go over there, load it up, and then head back to the processing plant with all my materials. Or I could go to number 3 and try to overload the Colossus that way, whichever way around you want to do it. When collecting materials onto your Colossus, make sure you're focusing on the specialist waste, because there are a number of milestones here that need you to collect 16 of the toxic, 16 of the radioactive, 16 of the explosive. And if you don't grab all of them on the checkpoints, it can be quite a pain in the backside to find them. However, if you do scan, you can see here that you have industrial waste lying about the general planet. And some of them will say specialist industrial waste. And that will have some more of the specialist waste. I don't know which one it will be when you get there. You'll have to find out when you get there. Make sure you don't miss little specialist industrial waste like this as well, because they can be hidden in and around the other items. So I like to do a little bit of sort of repelling them away to try and find if there is any others hiding. Some driving tips and tricks then whilst you're carrying all of your items in your Colossus, because this is the only way to transport them in both the expedition and in the normal game. Find the flattest terrain you can. Be patient. Don't drive over massive hills at speed, because stuff will fly out the back and over the top. Trust me, it takes more time collecting all of your items that have flown everywhere than it does just to take your time, be patient, and drive down the correct terrain. Watch out for caves and holes and pitfalls. If you fall down them, your stuff will fall down them as well. Yes, you can summon your exocraft out of that pit, but you're going to have to collect all of the items out of the cave or hole and put them all back onto your exocraft. It is a bit laborious. Watch out for certain items on the ground. Like there, I've just had one fall out because I'm hitting a bunch of actual waste on the ground there. So just be careful when you're going around what you're hitting and what you're driving over. If I'm honest, it's inevitable that things are going to fall out of your Colossus. Just be prepared for it. Just take your time, relax, and try not to get too frustrated. I completely understand the frustration. When that happens, it can be extremely annoying, and in some cases it makes people want to quit the expedition. I've heard that from a certain creator, and but if you persevere and you get through, you've got some lovely rewards in terms of the heirloom customization set. I absolutely think the expedition is worth it just for that for me, but I like that kind of thing. You might not be that bothered. And as look, you can see there's a big old dip. I just slowed down, let the Colossus kind of relax like a limb, and just let it fall down the hill, and nothing fell out. If you find some of those gullies or ravines that I found those little rocks in for the mineral milestone, definitely use those because they are much better. But watch out because there are lots of caves and lots of holes to fall down. So again, you still need to take your time, but it is a bit easier to transport everything through those little gullies, in my opinion. And this is a horrid position to be in. Take your time over these these massive hills, and look, nothing falls out. If you jump over there, you're losing all your stuff. Make sure that you chart your waypoint at every single waste heap you go to, and make sure you get the one at the processing plant here as well, and that way you'll have all 6. If you do find any buildings along the way, along your route as you're traveling with a Colossus, I normally just pick up them anyway just to get it done quickly. But that is one way to make sure you're getting the waypoints. If you don't do that, then you're going to have to go find them, and that can be a bit of a nightmare. You do need to collect a Gravitino ball to fit the Gravitino coil into your multi-tool, but you also need to collect 32 of these. Now, I just ran around and collected 32, dealt with it that way. Another way that you can do it is to bring in your Colossus, grab a bunch of these, for example. They're going to come and try and shoot me, because you might not be powerful enough at this stage to fight these off. You do need to kill a bunch of sentinels as well, but they won't actually attack the Colossus. They won't attack you in here, so that's nice and easy. And then you can just sort of go away in your Colossus and run off. Another milestone some people might be having problems with is the recalibrating or reorient 32 sentinels. This one can be done relatively easy in grabbing a sentinel, if you can, like that, and just click it off and on, and it will go up. You don't have to do it with 32 different ones. You can just do it like this, annoy this one, and then eventually it will go to 32. If you find a singular sentinel on its own, it's better to do it that way. I'm just doing this as a bit of a show and tell. As you can see down there in the bottom right hand corner, yes, I haven't completed the milestone, but you can see I've got 29 out of 32. Just reorienting that one sentinel. So that's an easy way to do that particular milestone, Reorientation Programme. I think the rest of the milestones are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we need to go through those ones or give any tips and tricks about those. I hope you're enjoying the expedition. Here's my thoughts on this particular update and expedition. I have had some people in my comments say they don't like it and they're not into the new update, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's some things in No Man's Sky that I generally never do, but other players do. So, you know, it makes sense that some people are going to like it and some people are not. In terms of the expedition itself, I did find the travelling with the exocraft frustrating at first until I took my time. I didn't rush. And then I found it a little bit more enjoyable. If you like trucking in space, this is going to be the one for you. For me, I enjoyed it. I think the rewards are worth it. But in the future, if I do a playthrough or I'm just playing the game for myself, would I actually go and pick out this as something that I would do within that save? Probably not straight away. Probably not that much either. I think that it's something I would do if I came across. I don't think I'd seek it out as much. I do like the update, and I think it has more things to come. For example, the Gravitino coil. Someone mentioned in the comments of my last video that the Gravitino coil has a lot of potential. So maybe we can move elements to and from our Corvette in the future. Maybe we can do trading that way, a bit like your other space games where they're adding that in. Maybe you can use it in space, do stuff with asteroids. There's all kinds of different things you can do with this particular Gravitino coil, and potentially the waste as well in the future. So I think it has a lot of scope. Like most things in No Man's Sky, I think No Man's Sky has massive scope anyway. And it is something that I enjoyed. I suggest give it a go. Let me know what you think. If there's any tips that you can think of that I've missed, or anything, or do's and don'ts that I've missed, please do let me know down in the comments. If you could like and subscribe to the video, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would be great. It really does help when people do that. Most of my viewers are not subscribed, so if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.